Is this life precious? We know pretty well that we will die at one or other time, one or other day. Death is certain, but we are not certain or sure about the rebirth. Now we are in a particular form, in a particular structure, a living existence. When we die, we disintegrate and we once again go into the process of nature, mixed with the other materials, living and non-living. When we combine, there is a very remote chance of once again getting this form, this accumulation, getting this particular structure. The possibilities are very remote. So this birth is very unique. There is a purpose for each and everything, for each and every happenings on this universe, which we have understood to some extent. Some say that there is no meaning for life itself and there is no purpose. But I feel that the purpose may not have been understood. We wouldn't have understood. Now through science we have understood that each and every living organism, both living and non-living organisms, has its role to play in the process of this nature. Even the science didn't understand the process of nature as a whole. Science is a language to understand this nature. It is having its own tools, its own techniques, its own methodologies. So it is a language through which we study the nature. We understand and interpret the language of the nature. But is it possible to understand the nature of language in its own ways? But there are certain restrictions, there are certain hurdles, obstacles when we try to understand the nature in its own way. Primarily our sense perceptions. Our sensory perceptions are limited. We have only 5 senses through which we understand this nature. But there is a possibility that we can reach and understand the nature's language, the language of the nature. But normally, what do? We just live for survival and procreation. We get a job, we study, we acquire knowledge, but mainly that knowledge is focused on survival and procreation. But that and this well-being is not the only purpose of our birth, of our existence. Because this particular thing, everything in this planet, every organism in this planet is doing. Why shouldn't we give a trial to understand ourselves and what is happening around us in this state of consciousness? Majority of the guidelines and instructions are given through religion, culture, and other visions about this life are focused for our physical and social survival. Only a very little focus is given to the consciousness beyond the mind. Most of the time, we live on a state of illusion or hallucination which were beautifully constructed by our ancestors and by the society. The society has well planned and conditions our minds not to see the reality as such. But what is wrong? We can see the nature as such. And what is the fear in seeing the life? And what is the fear in seeing the facts without any colors given to them? This world and all the happenings on this planet are wonders and miracles. It is a magical place where anything can happen according to your very strong thinking. Why shouldn't we try to understand the linking or missing link between our language and the language of the nature or the universe? The language of the nature may not be like what we have, for example, like the calculations, mathematical calculations, or the formulas in physics or chemistry. But still, we are sure that the nature has its own methods, languages. As I was telling you earlier, we have a limited perception through which we see this universe. But there is a possibility that we ourselves, our minds, can be converted as an instrument. Like how we have an extension of eye, microscope, telescopes, and we have an extension of our ears. So like that. So those things are all instruments through which we are able to study and able to extend our sensory perceptions. There is a possibility that we can convert our mind as an instrument which can be attuned with the frequencies of the nature itself. When we align ourselves to the frequencies of this nature, it is possible to know more about this nature. Through science, when we understood the process of nature, for example, through aerodynamics, we understood the properties of air, which contributed for technological growth. So through which we were able to fly materials, tons of materials onto the air. which was impossible or a dream to our ancestors, but now it is possible. Our communication is being transmitted through waves, which is an unimaginable thing to our ancestors, but it is possible. We don't do this in a vacuum state. Science understands everything. Science is an observation. Science is an understanding and interpretation of what is happening in and around us. And for our understanding, we have put into our language but this may not match, or it cannot compete with the language of the nature itself. The language of nature may be a different thing, because science is a piecemeal approach. We are not able to study as a whole, on the whole. It will take a very long time to understand the universe through science. For example, even a great scientist can pay attention and concentrate on only one particular aspect, one particular field of study. That is one grain of sand, like one grain of sand. So there is a whole world to be studied, whole universe to be studied. It takes a lifetime even to study what is inside of an atom or inside of a cell, and where to study the whole universe. When we spend a total lifetime in studying what is the process and what is inside a cell or an atom. But when we attune, or when we align ourselves, our brain, and make ourselves as an instrument to combine with the higher consciousness, with the higher order, with the higher phenomenon, so it is easy to understand the nature itself. When you become a part of the whole, and what is the need to understand the whole? When you become a drop of water in an ocean, and what is the great meaning or greatness of an ocean to you?